They say kindness costs nothing, but for Shanice Williams, it cost her everything. Or so she believed. On a calm night in Charlotte, North Carolina, a single mother broke the rules to serve a late customer. Wearing a baseball cap, she had no idea it was Michael Jordan. Sure. She didn't realize she was being observed. She didn't know that being fired the next morning would be the best thing that ever happened to her. Sometimes the biggest dreams come true when you're not actively seeking them. Sometimes losing a job isn't the end of your story. It's just the beginning. This is what transpired when one waitress chose kindness over rules, and how that decision transformed not just her life, but an entire community. Shanice Williams' feet ached as she refilled the sugar dispensers at Jerry's Diner. The clock on the wall read 11:45 p.m. Just 15 minutes until closing time. Her muscles begged for a break after 10 hours of rushing between tables. But she couldn't slow down yet, not when destiny was depending on her. "Mama, can I please go to basketball camp this summer?" Destiny had asked that morning, her big brown eyes sparkling with hope. "Coach says I'm getting really good." The memory of her 8-year-old daughter's eager face gave Shanice the motivation to keep moving. Basketball camp cost $500, which meant 2 more weeks of double shifts. But seeing Destiny light up whenever she spoke about basketball made it all worthwhile. The bell above the door chimed, pulling Shanice from her thoughts. She turned to inform the customer they were closing soon, but the words caught in her throat. A tall man in a baseball cap and dark jacket stood in the doorway, ducking his head slightly to enter. Even hunched over, he had to be at least 6.5 feet tall. Brad, her manager, had strict rules about serving customers after 11:30 p.m. "Ma'am, kitchen closes early," he always said. "No exceptions." But something about the man's weary eyes made Shanice hesitate. He looked like he'd had a long day, too. "Come on in," she called out, grabbing a menu from behind the counter. "Just try to order quickly if you can. Kitchen's about to close." The man smiled and warmth filled his eyes. "Thank you." "Thank you," he said in a deep, gentle voice. "I appreciate it. Just need a quiet place to eat and think." Shanice led him to a booth in the corner, far from the windows. She noticed how he kept his head down, like he was trying not to be recognized. Probably some basketball player, she thought. Charlotte had plenty of tall athletes passing through, especially during game season. "What can I get you?" she asked, pulling out her notepad. "Coffee black," he said. "And whatever you recommend for dinner?" "Our chicken and waffles are quite famous," Shanice said. "My daughter says they're the best in Charlotte, though she might be a little biased since her mama makes them." The man chuckled, a warm, familiar sound that Shanice couldn't quite place. "Sounds perfect. You have kids?" "Just one. Destiny. She's 8 and already taller than half her class." Shanice smiled proudly. "She's basketball crazy, wants to play in the WNBA someday." "Good dreams to have," the man said. His cap shifted slightly as he nodded, and Shanice caught a glimpse of his face in the fluorescent light. Her heart skipped a beat as recognition hit her, but she kept her expression neutral, pretending not to notice. "I'll get that order in," she said smoothly, turning toward the kitchen. Through the serving window, she could see Jerry the cook getting ready to clean up. "Last order of the night," Jerry grumbled, but fired up the waffle iron. In all her years working at the diner, he'd never turned away a customer she vouched for. While the food cooked, Shanice wiped down tables and counted her tips. She'd made $83 tonight, not counting the late customer that would go straight into the basketball camp fund, along with the extra tips from her morning shift at the coffee shop across town. The man sat quietly watching the empty street through the window while sipping his coffee. Despite his size, he had a gentle presence that put Shanice at ease. She'd served plenty of famous athletes over the years, and some had been real jerks. But this one seemed different. When the food was ready, she carried it to his table with extra napkins and a bottle of hot sauce. "Here you go, best chicken and waffles in Charlotte coming right up." "Thank you." He paused, reading her name tag. "Shanice, you didn't have to serve me so late." "I know it's past closing," she shrugged. "Everyone deserves a good meal and a moment of peace, no matter what time it is. My mama taught me that." He nodded thoughtfully. "Your mama taught you well, and your daughter's lucky to have you." "I'm the lucky one," Shanice said, meaning it. "Destiny keeps me going on nights like this. Speaking of which, I better finish cleaning up." As she worked, she couldn't help glancing at the security camera in the corner. Brad reviewed the tapes every morning, but maybe he wouldn't notice the timestamp. And even if he did, she couldn't bring herself to regret helping someone in need. The man ate quietly, occasionally making appreciative sounds that made Shanice smile. When he finished, he waved her over. "Your daughter was right," he said. "Best chicken and waffles I've had in a long time." He pulled out his wallet, and Shanice started to tell him the total, but he was already placing several bills on the table. "Keep the change," he said, standing up, "and thank you for the kindness. It means more than you know." Shanice waited until he left before counting the tip. Her eyes widened at the stack of $100 bills, 5 of them. That was more than enough for Destiny's basketball camp. As she locked up the diner at 12:30 a.m., Shanice felt lighter despite her exhaustion. Sometimes breaking the rules was worth it, especially when your heart told you it was right. What she didn't know was that her act of kindness hadn't gone unnoticed, and tomorrow that simple decision would change her life forever. Outside, a black SUV pulled away from the curb, its taillights disappearing into the night. Inside, Michael Jordan smiled, already planning his next move. The next morning came too quickly. Shanice's alarm buzzed at 6 a.m., and she groaned. Her feet still sore from last night's shift, but the memory of the $500 tip brought a smile to her face as she got ready for work. "Destiny, breakfast time, baby," she called down the hall of their small apartment. Her daughter appeared, already dressed in her school basketball uniform, dribbling an imaginary ball. "Mama, guess what Coach Johnson says I might make team captain?" Shanice pulled her daughter into a tight hug. "That's amazing! And guess what else I think basketball camp this summer is going to happen after all?" Destiny's eyes lit up. "For real? But yesterday you said, !" Quote, "LiveNet. Let's just say a kind customer left a very generous tip last night." Shanice started making pancakes, adding chocolate chips in the shape of a basketball. Sometimes good things happen when you least expect them. The morning routine flew by, and soon Shanice was dropping Destiny at school before heading to Jerry's diner for her day shift. She hadn't even made it through the door when Brad's voice stopped her cold. "My office now." Her manager stood by his desk, arms crossed, the security footage from last night playing on his computer screen. The timestamp clearly showed 11:47 p.m. "Want to explain this?" Brad pointed to the screen where Shanice was serving the tall customer. "You know the rules. No customers after 11:30. "Brad, he just needed a meal. It wasn't causing any." "Rules are rules, Shanice. What if you'd been a robber? What if something had happened? The insurance doesn't cover incidents after closing." "But nothing happened. He was just hungry." "And?" "Nothing." Brad's face hardened. "I've warned you about this before. Making exceptions, staying late, giving extra portions to people who say they're hungry." Shanice felt her face grow hot. Those people were hungry. And last night's customer was Michael Jordan. The words burst out before she could stop them. "Brad, that was Michael Jordan!" He laughed harshly. "Right, and I'm LeBron James." He shook his head. This is the last straw, Shanice. I'm going to need your apron and name tag." "You're firing me over helping someone?" Her voice cracked. "I have a daughter to support." "Should have thought about that before breaking the rules again." Brad held out his hand for her name tag. "You'll get your final check in 2 weeks." Shanice's hand shook as she unpinned her name tag. 8 years of service ended just like that. She thought about the basketball camp money now needed for rent and groceries. Instead, as she walked to her car, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Hello," she answered, trying to keep her voice steady. "Is this Shanice Williams?" a professional-sounding woman asked. "Yes, who's this?" "I'm calling on behalf of Mr. Michael Jordan. He'd like to meet with you this morning at the Charlotte Hornets office. Are you available?" Shanice nearly dropped her phone. She looked back at the diner where Brad watched suspiciously through the window. I guess I am now," she said, her heart pounding. "May I ask what this is about?" "Mr. Jordan will explain everything in person. Can you be here in 30 minutes? Shanice thought about Destiny's dream of basketball camp, about the kindness in the tall customer's eyes last night, about Brad's sneering disbelief. "Yes," she said firmly. "I'll be there." As she drove toward downtown Charlotte, Shanice couldn't help wondering if she was making another mistake. But somehow, deep in her heart, she knew this was different. Last night's customer hadn't just been a hungry stranger. He'd been watching her, testing her. The question was why. In the Hornets' executive office tower, Michael Jordan reviewed Shanice's background check results with satisfaction. 8 years at the same diner. A second job to support her daughter. Volunteer work at the community center. Perfect. Send her up as soon as she arrives, he told his assistant, and call the foundation board. Tell them I think we've found our person. Shanice sat in her old Toyota Corolla, staring up at the gleaming Charlotte Hornets office. Building her hands gripped the steering wheel so tight her knuckles turned white. The events of the morning felt like a bad dream, getting fired, the mysterious phone call, and now this. Her phone buzzed with a text from Maria, her coworker at Jerry's. Girl, we all tried to talk to Brad. He won't listen. We're gonna miss you so much. Tears welled up in her eyes. 8 years of friendships. Regular customers who felt like family, all gone because she'd helped someone in need. She thought about Mrs. Johnson, the elderly woman who came in every Tuesday for coffee and conversation, and little Tommy from the homeless shelter down the street who she'd been sneaking extra pancakes to for months. Get it together, she whispered to herself, wiping her eyes. Destiny needs you to be strong. Wrong destiny. She still had to figure out how to tell her daughter that basketball camp wasn't happening anymore. The $500 from last night would have to go toward next month's rent now that she'd lost her job. Taking a deep breath, Shanice checked her reflection in the rearview mirror. Her waitress uniform was still on. She hadn't had time to change after being fired. At least it was clean and pressed. Her mother had always said, "Present yourself with dignity no matter what life throws at you." The lobby of the Hornets building was all marble and glass, making Shanice feel even more out of place in her blue and white uniform. A security guard looked up as she approached the desk. "I'm Shanice Williams. I got a call about meeting with..." She paused, still hardly believing it. "Mr. Jordan?" The guard's expression changed from bored to interested. He made a quick phone call, then handed her a visitor's badge. 43rd floor. Patricia will meet you at the elevator. The elevator ride felt like it took forever. Shanice's mind raced with questions. Why would Michael Jordan want to meet with her? Was this about last night? Maybe he was upset about her pretending not to recognize him. Patricia turned out to be a sharply dressed woman in her 50s with kind eyes. "Right this way, Miss Williams. Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee?" "No, thank you," Shanice replied automatically, then remembered she'd missed her morning coffee in all the chaos. "Actually, water would be nice." Patricia led her to a comfortable waiting area with huge windows overlooking the city. From up here, Shanice could just barely make out Jerry's diner, looking tiny and insignificant from this height, just like she felt right now. "Mr. Jordan will be with you shortly," Patricia said, returning with a glass of water. "Make yourself comfortable." Shanice almost laughed. How could she be comfortable when her whole life had just fallen apart? When she had no idea how she'd pay next month's bills? When her daughter's dreams might have to be put on hold again? Her phone buzzed again, a text from Destiny. "Had the best basketball practice ever. Coach says I'm getting really good at three-pointers. Love you, Mama." Fresh tears threatened to fall. Shanice took a long drink of water, trying to steady herself. That's when she heard the door open behind her. "Ms. Williams?" that familiar deep voice said. "Thank you for coming on such short notice." Shanice stood and turned to face Michael Jordan himself. No baseball cap this time. He was even taller in the daylight, his presence filling the room. But his eyes were the same kind and watchful, like they could see right through you. "I hope you don't mind that I didn't let on that I recognized you last night," Shanice said, finding her voice. "You seemed like you wanted privacy." Jordan smiled. "That's exactly what I wanted. And that's exactly what you gave me. Just another customer needing a meal and a moment of peace." He gestured for her to sit back down. "But that's not why I asked you here today." "It's not?" "No." He sat across from her, leaning forward slightly. "I've been watching Jerry's diner for the past month, watching you specifically." Shanice's confusion must have shown on her face because he continued. "I've been looking for someone special to run a new youth program at my foundation. Someone with real compassion. Someone who does the right thing even when it costs them something." He paused. "Someone like you." "Me?" Shanice's voice came out as a whisper. "But I just lost my job. I broke the rules." "You showed kindness to a stranger, even though it might get you in trouble. That wasn't the first time, was it?" Shanice thought about all the late-night customers she'd served, all the extra portions she'd snuck to hungry kids, all the times she'd stayed late to let elderly customers finish their meals in peace. No, she said softly. It wasn't. That's why I'm offering you a job, Jordan said. But first I need to know, why did you help me last night? The truth? Shanice met his gaze steadily. Because you look tired and hungry, and everyone deserves kindness, especially when they're tired and hungry. It didn't matter to me who you were under that cap. Jordan's smile widened. That's exactly what I was hoping you'd say. Shanice's hands trembled as she held the business card Jordan had given her. Director of Community Outreach, it read, in elegant gold letters, followed by a phone number and the logo of the Jordan Youth Foundation. I don't understand, she said, looking up from the card. I don't have a college degree. I've never run a foundation. I'm just a waitress here. You're not just anything, Jordan replied, his voice firm. You're exactly what this foundation needs. Someone who sees people, not positions, someone who understands what it means to struggle and still choose kindness. He stood and walked to the window, gesturing at the city below. I've got plenty of people with fancy degrees. What I need is someone with heart, someone who knows our community because they live it every day. A knock at the door interrupted them. Patricia entered with a thick folder. The employment package you requested, Mr. Jordan. Thank you, Patricia. Jordan took the folder and handed it to Shanice. Miss Treese. Inside, you'll find all the details about the position, salary, benefits, responsibilities. Take it home. Read it over. Talk to your daughter. Shanice opened the folder, and her eyes widened at the salary figure. It was more than double what she made at both her jobs combined. This can't be right, she whispered. It is. Jordan's eyes crinkled with amusement. And it includes full health insurance, a retirement plan. And he paused meaningfully. Free admission to all our youth basketball programs. Destiny's face flashed through Shanice's mind. Not just basketball camp, but year-round training, real coaching, real opportunities. Why me? She asked again, still struggling to believe this was real. Because last night wasn't a coincidence, Jordan said. I've been visiting different businesses around Charlotte, watching how people treat others when they think no one important is looking. You were the only one who didn't change your behavior based on who you thought I was. He sat back down across from her. The foundation board wanted me to hire someone with an MBA and 10 years of nonprofit experience. But I told them I wanted someone real. Someone who lives our mission every day without even thinking about it. Shanice thought about all the time she'd bent rules to help people at the diner. How it had cost her her job, and now somehow it had led to this moment. I don't know what to say, she admitted. Say you'll think about it. Jordan stood, signaling the end of the meeting. Take the weekend, review the package. The position starts Monday if you want it now. As Patricia led her back to the elevator, Shanice felt like she was floating. The folder in her hands seemed to weigh 100 pounds heavy with possibility. The reality of the morning hit her again as she reached her car. She still had to pick up Destiny from school, still had to figure out how to tell her about losing the diner job. But now maybe she also had something wonderful to share. She was about to start the car when her phone rang. The screen showed Brad's number from the diner. Hello, she answered cautiously. Shanice? Brad's voice sounded strange. You need to come back to the diner right now. I don't work there anymore. Remember, you fired me this morning. Yeah, well, he cleared his throat. Things have changed. Some guy in a suit just showed up, says he's from the Jordan brand. They're talking about buying the whole diner chain, but they want to talk to you first. Shanice looked up at the Hornets building, where she could have sworn she saw a figure watching from the top floor. I'm kind of busy right now, she said, surprising herself with how steady her voice was. Maybe tomorrow? Tomorrow, Shanice? These guys are serious. They're talking millions of dollars, but they keep asking about you. What did you do? She thought about the folder on her passenger seat, about Destiny's dreams, about all the other kids out there with dreams of their own. I just helped someone who was hungry, she said. That's all. Look, I'm sorry about this morning. Your job is still here if you want it. We can forget the whole thing happened. Shanice watched a group of kids playing basketball at the court across from the building. Their laughter carried through her car window, reminding her of Destiny's joy when she played. Thank you, Brad, but I don't think I'll be coming back. Her voice grew stronger with each word. I think God has something else in mind for me. She ended the call and picked up the folder again, starting to read through it carefully. The position wasn't just about running programs. It was about creating opportunities for kids who needed them. Kids like Destiny kids, who just needed someone to believe in them. Her phone buzzed with another text from her daughter. Can't wait to tell you about the new moves Coach taught us. You're picking me up, right? Shanice smiled, typing back. You bet, baby. And wait till you hear what happened today. She started the car, her mind already racing with ideas for the foundation. Maybe she could start a program specifically for single parents and their kids. Maybe she could create scholarships for uniforms and equipment. Maybe the possibilities seemed endless, all because she'd chosen kindness over rules, all because she'd seen a hungry person instead of just another late-night customer. As she drove toward Destiny's school, she finally let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, dreams really do come true. Not just for her daughter, but for her too. The afternoon sun painted Charlotte's streets golden as Shanice pulled up to Destiny's school. Kids streamed out of the building, many carrying basketballs and sports bags. She spotted her daughter immediately, the tallest girl in her group, dribbling a basketball with the natural grace that always made Shanice's heart swell with pride. "Mama!" Destiny called out, running to the car. She stopped short when she saw Shanice's waitress uniform. "Why aren't you at work?" Shanice took a deep breath. "Baby, we need to talk. But first, I want to hear all about your day." As they drove, Destiny chatted excitedly about her new three-point shot and how Coach Johnson said she had natural talent. Shanice listened, her mind spinning with the possibilities the new job could bring: free admission to youth programs, real coaching, real opportunities. They stopped at their favorite park, the one with the basketball court where Destiny had first learned to dribble. Shanice led them to their usual bench under the big oak tree. "Something happened today." Shanice began pulling the folder from her bag. "Actually, it started last night at the diner." She told Destiny everything about serving Michael Jordan getting fired and the surprising job offer. Her daughter's eyes grew wider with each word. "You mean the Michael Jordan?" Destiny bounced in her seat. "The greatest basketball player ever, and he wants you to work for him?" "That's right, baby, but it's a big change. I'd be running programs to help kids play basketball and—" "Like basketball camp?" Destiny interrupted, her eyes shining. "Even better than basketball camp!" Shanice opened the folder, showing Destiny some of the program materials. "These are youth leagues, training programs, and special camps that run all year round. And if I take this job, you could be part of them." Destiny grabbed the papers, her fingers tracing over the colorful photos of kids playing basketball. This is like a dream, Mama." "I know, baby, but there's something else you need to know." Shanice touched her daughter's hand. "I lost my job at the diner this morning. That's why I wasn't at work." Destiny's face fell. "Because you helped Mr. Jordan?" "Because I broke the rules to help someone who needed it, even though it turned out to be Mr. Jordan. I didn't know that at the time, and I would have done the same thing for anyone. Like when you give extra food to Tommy from the shelter." Shanice blinked in surprise. "You knew about that?" Destiny nodded. "I see you do nice things for people all the time. Mama, that's why Mr. Jordan picked you, isn't it?" "Maybe." Shanice pulled her daughter close. "But this job, it's bigger than anything I've ever done. I'd be responsible for helping lots of kids, not just serving food. What if I'm not good enough? Remember what you always tell me?" Destiny sat up straight, putting on her best mom voice. "You'll never know what you can do until you try." Shanice laughed, wiping away tears she hadn't realized were falling. "When did you get so wise?" "I learned from the best." Destiny hugged her tightly. "You're going to be amazing, Mama, just like you are at everything else." They sat together, watching the sunset paint the sky pink and orange on the court. On the court, some teenagers were playing a pickup game, their laughter and trash talk floating over on the evening breeze. "Those could be your programs," Destiny said softly. "You could help kids who can't afford basketball camp, like Tommy's sister. She's really good, but her mom says they can't pay for training." Shanice looked at her daughter with pride, even at 8. Destiny understood what this opportunity really meant, not just for them, but for others too. Her phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. "Mr. Jordan would like to know if you've made a decision. The board is meeting tomorrow morning." Looking at Destiny's hopeful face at the kids playing basketball at the community she'd served for so long, Shanice suddenly knew exactly what she wanted to say. "Want to help me write something, baby?" she asked, pulling out her phone. Together they composed a response. "I would be honored to accept the position. Thank you for seeing something in me that I didn't even see in myself." The reply came almost instantly. "Welcome to the team.
Be here at 9 a.m. tomorrow and bring your daughter. There's someone I want her to meet."
"Who do you think it is?" Destiny asked, practically bouncing with excitement. "I don't know, baby." Shanice smiled, remembering Jordan's words about the foundation board, "but I have a feeling this is just the beginning of something big." As they walked back to the car, a cool evening breeze rustled the trees, the same breeze that had blown through Jerry's diner last night, when a tall stranger in a baseball cap had changed their lives forever. "Mama," Destiny said as they pulled away from the park. "I'm proud of you." Shanice gripped the steering wheel tighter, her heart so full it felt like it might burst. "I'm proud of us, baby. We in this together." What neither of them knew was that back in his office, Michael Jordan was still working. On his desk lay a stack of files. Information about other single parents in Charlotte. Other kids who needed opportunities. Other lives waiting to be changed. At the top of that stack was a photo of Shanice serving food at the homeless shelter last Christmas, smiling despite her obvious exhaustion. Next to it was a letter from Tommy's mother, describing how Shanice had helped her family through hard times. Jordan smiled, adding one final note to Shanice's file. "Sometimes the biggest dreams come true when you're busy helping others achieve theirs." The next morning, Shanice stood in front of her closet, staring at her clothes with growing panic. Everything she owned seemed wrong for a foundation director, too casual, too worn, too waitress-like. After trying on 5 different outfits, she finally settled on her church dress, a simple navy blue number that her mother had given her last Christmas. "Mama, we're going to be late," Destiny called from the living room. She'd been ready for an hour, wearing her best basketball jersey and new sneakers she'd saved up for by doing extra chores. "Coming, baby!" Shanice gave herself one last look in the mirror. The woman staring back at her looked scared but determined. "You can do this," she whispered to her reflection. They arrived at the Hornets building 20 minutes early. This time, when they walked through the marble lobby, Shanice held her head higher. The security guard from yesterday smiled in recognition and handed them both visitor badges. "Good morning, Miss Williams." Patricia greeted them on the 43rd floor. "And you must be Destiny. We've heard so much about you." Destiny beamed. "Is it true I get to meet someone special today?" "Very special," Patricia winked. "But first, your mother has an important meeting with the foundation board. Would you like to wait in our game room? We have a basketball court simulator." Destiny's eyes lit up, but she looked at Shanice first. "Is that okay, Mama?" "Of course, baby." Shanice squeezed her daughter's hand. "You have fun. I'll come get you as soon as I'm done." Patricia led Shanice to a large conference room where several people in expensive suits sat around a long table. Michael Jordan sat at the head, and he stood when she entered. "Everyone, this is Shanice Williams, our new Director of Community Outreach." He gestured for her to take the empty seat beside him. "Shanice, meet the board." As she sat down, Shanice noticed something odd mixed in with the suits were some familiar faces. Tommy's mother from the homeless shelter, Mrs. Johnson from the diner, and even Coach Johnson from Destiny's school. "We've been watching you for months," Jordan explained. Seeing her confusion, "Not just me, but our whole community outreach team. We asked regular people, your customers, your neighbors, the families you've helped, what they thought about you." Mrs. Johnson spoke up, her kind, elderly voice firm. "I told them how you stay late every Tuesday to listen to my stories about my late husband, even though your shift was over. And I told them about the extra food you always find for the shelter," Tommy's mother added, "and how you helped file job applications after hours." Coach Johnson nodded. "I mentioned how you volunteer to clean up after every school basketball game, even when Destiny isn't playing." Tears welled in Shanice's eyes. "I didn't know anyone was paying attention." "That's exactly why you're perfect for this job," Jordan said. "You do good things when you think no one is watching. That's real character." He slid a document across the table. "This is your official contract. The salary we discussed, plus a few extras we threw in, full college scholarship for Destiny when she's ready. Health insurance starts today, and a signing bonus to help you get settled." Shanice stared at the number on the page. It was enough to move to a better apartment, to buy a reliable car, to start a savings account for Destiny's future. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Say yes," Mrs. Johnson said, patting her hand. "Then go meet your new assistant coach." "My what?" Jordan grinned. "Remember I said there was someone special for Destiny to meet? While you've been in here, she's been getting some one-on-one coaching from Lisa Leslie." Shanice's jaw dropped. "The WNBA legend Lisa Leslie? Who better to mentor our first youth program scholarship recipient?" Jordan handed her a pen. "Your daughter's got talent. Now she'll have the training to match it." As Shanice signed the contract, her hands trembling slightly, she thought about all the time she'd stayed late at the diner, all the extra food she'd snuck to hungry kids, all the little kindnesses that had seemed so small at the time. "When do I start?" she asked. Jordan stood, extending his hand. "You already have your first assignment is downstairs watching your daughter train with one of the greatest players in WNBA history." As they walked toward the elevator, Jordan added softly, When I was growing up, someone gave my family a chance when we needed it most. Sometimes all it takes is one person believing in you. You've been that person for so many people, Shanice. Now it's your turn to have someone believe in you." The elevator doors opened to the sound of a basketball bouncing and a familiar voice shouting with joy. Destiny was on the court running drills with Lisa Leslie herself, her face glowing with happiness. Shanice watched her daughter sink a perfect three-pointer and thought about all the other kids out there, all the other dreams waiting to come true. She couldn't wait to get started. What she didn't know was that there was still one more test to come. One that would prove whether she truly deserved this chance. But for now, she let herself enjoy the moment watching her daughter's dreams unfold on a professional basketball court, surrounded by people who had seen her heart when she thought no one was looking. 3 months flew by like a fast break down the court. Shanice settled into her new role at the Jordan Youth Foundation with the same dedication she'd shown at the diner. Instead of serving meals, she was serving dreams, helping kids find their way to basketball courts instead of street corners. Every morning she walked into her office, her very own office, with a window overlooking the city, and pinched herself to make sure it wasn't a dream. The walls were already covered with thank you letters from families she'd helped, and photos of kids playing in their new uniforms. Destiny was thriving too. Training with Lisa Leslie twice a week had transformed her game. She'd grown 2 inches and developed a jump shot that made Coach Johnson shake his head in amazement. But more importantly, she'd started mentoring younger kids at the foundation, showing them the same moves she was learning. "Just like my mama taught me," Destiny had said when Shanice asked her why she spent extra time helping the smaller kids. "Everyone deserves a chance." Today, Shanice sat at her desk, reviewing applications for their new scholarship program. They had funding for 20 kids to receive full basketball training equipment and academic tutoring. But there were over 200 applications. "How am I supposed to choose?" she muttered, spreading the papers across her desk. Each story touched her heart. Single parents working multiple jobs, families struggling after losing homes to fires, kids using borrowed shoes that didn't fit. She was so focused on the applications that she almost missed the email notification that popped up on her computer screen. The subject line made her stomach drop. Urgent financial audit review. Opening the email, Shanice's hands started to shake. There were numbers that didn't add up in the foundation's accounts. Large sums of money that seemed to disappear and reappear in different places. This is the kind of thing that could shut down their programs if word got out. "This can't be right," she whispered, pulling up the spreadsheets attached to the email. But there it was. In black and white, hundreds of thousands of dollars moving between accounts with no clear explanation. Her new office suddenly felt very small. She thought about all the kids counting on these programs about Destiny's face when she made her first three-pointer on a real court about Tommy's sister who just started training last week. The right thing to do was report the discrepancies immediately. But what if it meant losing everything? What if all these kids lost their chances? What if Destiny? No, she couldn't think that way. Taking a deep breath, Shanice picked up her phone and dialed Jordan's private number. "Mr. Jordan, we need to talk. It's about the foundation's finances." "Come to my office," he replied, his voice giving nothing away. The walk to his office felt longer than usual. Through the window, she could see kids practicing on the courts below. Their laughter floated up, making her heart ache. How many dreams would be crushed if the foundation had to close? Jordan sat at his desk, reading glasses perched on his nose, examining what looked like the same financial documents she'd just seen. "Sir, I found some irregularities in the accounts," she began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Large sums of money moving around without proper documentation. I had to tell you right away." He looked up, his expression unreadable. Even though reporting this could jeopardize everything, the programs, the scholarships, Destiny's training, especially because of that, Shanice stood straighter. These kids deserve better than a program built on dishonesty. My daughter deserves better than success built on lies. Jordan's serious expression held for a moment longer, then broke into a wide smile.
Exactly what I wanted to hear.
I don't understand, Shanice said, looking around the boardroom at the smiling faces.
What do you mean?
The real test. Jordan walked over to the window, gesturing for her to join him. Below, kids were already arriving for their morning practice sessions. Some wore brand new sneakers from the foundation, others had on jerseys, with Jordan Youth Foundation printed across the chest.
See that girl in the blue shirt? Jordan pointed to a young player practicing free throws. That's Brad's daughter.
Brad? My old manager from Jerry's?
Jordan nodded with that god. When we bought the diner chain, we found out why he was so strict about rules. He was trying to save enough money to send his daughter to basketball camp. He'd been cutting corners, working extra shifts, doing everything he could to give her a chance. Shanice watched the girl sink a perfect shot.
I had no idea. None of us know everyone's story, Jordan said. That's why we need leaders who look deeper, who see the whole picture. He turned to face her. The financial irregularities you found, they're real, but they're not fraud. They're desperation. Our accountant has been trying to stretch the budget to help more kids, just like you used to stretch the diner's food to feed more hungry people. Tears welled in Shanice's eyes as understanding dawned.
So when I reported it, you proved that even when the intention is good, you'll stand up for what's right. Jordan smiled.
That's not something we can teach. That's who you are. The boardroom door opened and Patricia entered with Destiny and Lisa Leslie. Sorry to interrupt, but someone here has some news.
Destiny could barely contain her excitement. Mama, I made the junior national team. Lisa says I might be the youngest player ever. Shanice hugged her daughter tight, her heart so full it felt like it might burst. I'm so proud of you, baby.
And that's not all, Lisa added.
Tell her the rest, Destiny.
I told them I'll only play if other kids get a chance too, Destiny said. Like Jenny and Marcus and all the others. They need opportunities too, just like you always say. Jordan cleared his throat. Which brings us to why we really called this board meeting, Shanice. We want to expand the foundation nationwide youth centers in every city, starting with converting all the Jerry's diners we bought. And we want you to lead it all. Shanice sat down hard in her chair. Nationwide? You've proven yourself in every way possible. Jordan continued, not just with the tests we planned, but with the real challenges too. You've shown that success means nothing if we're not helping others succeed too. He slid a new contract across the table. What do you say? Ready to help kids all across the country chase their dreams? Shanice looked at Destiny, who nodded enthusiastically.
She thought about all the other parents out there working double shifts, all the kids practicing on broken courts with worn-out balls, all the dreams waiting to take flight. On one condition, she said, picking up the contract. Brad gets his job back as manager of our first youth center, and his daughter gets a full scholarship. Jordan grinned. Already done. Turns out you're not the only one who believes in second chances. 6 months later, Shanice stood on stage at the grand opening of the first converted Jerry's Youth Center. The old diner sign still hung inside, reminding everyone where it all started. But now the parking lot was a basketball court, and the dining room was filled with training equipment. Brad and his daughter stood in the crowd, both wearing foundation jerseys. Next to them were Tommy and his sister Jenny, who just made her school's varsity team. Marcus was there too, already working as a junior coach. Destiny stood beside her mother at the podium, proudly wearing her junior national team uniform. They'd traveled a long way from their late-night conversations about basketball camp. Dreams come in all sizes, Shanice told the crowd. Sometimes they look like making a game-winning shot. Sometimes they look like serving a late-night customer. But the biggest dreams, they're the ones we help others achieve. She caught Jordan's eye in the crowd. He was wearing a baseball cap, just like that night at the diner, and his smile said it all. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness could change everything, not just for one person, but for an entire community. Not just for one night, but for generations to come. Not just for one dream, but for all the dreams yet to be dreamed. All because a waitress chose kindness over rules, and a basketball legend saw the champion hiding behind the name tag. The truth was, there had never really been a test at all, just life presenting a daily choice between what's easy and what's right, and Shanice had made that choice the same way every time, with an open heart and a helping hand. That was the real victory. That was the real dream. That was the real game. And this was just the beginning.
If you like this video, leave a like, subscribe, and help us bring you more exciting stories involving celebrities. Here you will be updated every day on the world of celebrities. See you soon!